Wow. Does anybody have any thoughts that they want to share out from the video?
Yeah, I mean, it's a story I've heard before, but every single time I hear it, it's like, it's just a little kind of refresher of what's wrong with the world, man. The Plessy v. Ferguson case. Since I started this internship, I didn't know about it prior to it, but learning about it and continuing to learn about it, just the deeper you go, the more you kind of realize how messed up everything was, man.
Yeah, and there was a lot of thinking when we got to the part of the video when it was talking about the redlining, because I hear a lot of people talking all the time oh, why do black people choose to live in these horrible homes and in these horrible areas? It all goes back to redlining. We were pushed on to these little plots of land in the city. We weren't allowed to get better housing. We weren't allowed to get better higher paying jobs, and then that's obviously going to affect the future economically. And of course, people make it out. Some of us make it out, me being one of them. But the same can't be said for all of us, and it's not a choice. It's not a choice. That's what I was thinking about when listening to that section of the video.
I hear a lot of time people being like, "We made it out the hood. We made it out the mud." And to an extent, I'm all for that. Well, not to an extent. I am all for that completely. I love the notion of breaking free from those chains that people have kind of put you in the first place. Yeah. When I think about that, it just makes me sad, because we shouldn't have to break free from anything. We shouldn't have to make it out alive.
I love that you mentioned that, because I'm from North Minneapolis, right? And my dad wanted to move me and my sister out of there. He wanted us to live in a better environment, a safer environment. But it's always got me thinking, I wish we never had to leave. I wish I never had to leave, because I left all that black culture. Growing up where I'm growing up, I feel really disconnected from black culture. I truly do, and that's it's sad, because I'm half black. I get my blackness from my dad, and he was adopted, and so we don't know his biological family. So there's I never got to grow up with that black family. So there's just a huge disconnect, And if I were to grow up in that community, I'm sure I wouldn't feel this way, and I wish that I didn't have to leave that,
Yeah, and I feel like the video, I think it also touched on the potential benefits of some kinds of transportation, right? Because transportation can connect communities, if done right. And I think one of the important things about doing transportation right is having it done with input from the community, or even by the community itself. I think, if you lose touch, or if you purposefully ignore what the people who are being affected want, you get situations like what happened in Rondo and across the country. And I think what the land bridge is trying to do is to recenter the community's own communal will and desire to connect the Rondo, and to take control of these policies themselves, and have an influence on the community without the government kind of stepping in and doing this. And so I feel like that's something that could be something to learn from this history of transportation that we saw.
And honestly, this might be a hot take. I personally don't like highways at all. I think that we can honestly move away from that idea. I've heard about this thing called walkable cities, where
crazy.
You don't need huge highway systems to get around. I wish that we could start as a people envisioning a future past this prehistoric kind of thing that has been racist.
Yeah, and they called it urban renewal. They said they're renewing the cities by putting all these highways through.
Yeah, and maybe why can't we get a few bullet trains here and there, or people start walking and biking more?
Bikes,
I don't know. It's a lot to envision. There's a lot of concerns that are going to be brought up, but I think that it's something that we should start a conversation about and start thinking about new ways to approach transportation.
Yeah. You can't walk across the highway. Sorry. No, you can't walk across the highway. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. You could.
You could try.
Don't do it though.
I'm a firm believer in the fact that we as a collective, as a species, have evolved past the need for automobiles and highways.
Truly.
Because we just we never even needed them in the first place.
No. I mean, like, we used to be one with nature. Like, and like, especially with our transportation system, I feel like it's also caused that huge drift between humans and nature. Like, it's just like,
yes,
it's a huge
I think
drift.
automobiles in general, and the fact that we're catering more towards these things that take up like such a huge portion of our lives. We spend all of our money on gas, and then we drive, half an hour to work.
Takes you to school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, living here in St. Paul, everything you have to get.
Like, you can't do anything if you don't have a way to get some. Like, if you don't have those automobiles to take you where you need to go, you can't do nothing with your life. You can't
because
do
nothing is catered towards us. It's catered towards the distance you got to travel. Right. It's catered towards that money you got to spend to get there.
Automobile companies who want.
Imagine, because like. And it's all about industry, like the fossil fuel industry. Like, imagine if we just didn't need that anymore. Like, they would fall. They would fall. Like, the fossil fuel industry, like, it'd be no more. Like, they would lose all billions of dollars. They can't afford that. They need our money.
Yeah, and there are ways to like think toward the future with like more advanced tech, or like thinking, for what is the potential. While kind of what you guys said, actually like taking care of our environment and making our cities more livable and more comfortable for the people who actually have to live in them.
Eco-friendly,
right? Yeah. So it's
equitable,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
I kind of want to point out for the fossil fuel industry, people who are at the head of that, and the people who are at the head of, eco-friendly cars, right? Those are the same guys, the same exact guys. I'll tell you, because I think the problem we're trying to solve, or at least steer away from, is not being so automobile centric. But you have people, obviously the car manufacturers, they're. What am I trying to say? They're
in both cases, you're still staying
dependent
on
a
the
car.
automobile.
You're staying
industry.
dependent on that car. Exactly.
It kind of reminds me of like black capitalism, for example. I think that's the right term for it. But like, whenever people think the solution to all of our problems is to vote more black and brown people into office, like, that's not really gonna, like,
people are people, man.
mean, because like now, the only thing that's changed now is the people that are screwing you over look like you. Like,
exactly.
that's what is changing, honestly. Like, and that hurts even more. Like.
It does. It does to have the people you feel are on your side
not be
just completely disregard you.
Exactly.
And it happens all the time. It happens in every single way. You think of, women in politics. You think of Latinos in politics. You think of
LGBTQ people in politics.
Black people in politics. Politics. It's all the same idea.
It truly is. Yeah.
We want people to look like us and be in power. Yes, we want to have that relation to them, and that in turn makes us feel empowered. But what really empowers us is having power, is being the one in control of what you do, of what you decide, what you pay for, what you spend your hard-earned living on.
Yep, and exactly. No matter how many people that look like you vote into office, like, this is still the white man system. This is still the colonialist system. Like, that's the same. That's all the same.
Because we're living in the colonial's dream.
Yeah.
That's what America is right now. And it wasn't what it always was, and it's not what it has to be. A lot of people feel like the American dream is what needs to be America.
And to some extent, that history is always present in America.
It's always going to be present. The amount of things that colonialism has done, it's irreversible.
Truly.
You can't undrive the natives from their land.
You can't ungenocide a people.
You can't unbuild that highway through this neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, Rondo was what? It was founded by this French, like, fur trader.
Yeah, Joseph Rondo.
Right? Who came in here and wanted to, like, set up a business, essentially. And without regard for the people who were living here. you can see this history of colonialism dates back to the founding of Rondo and the beginning of this system of, exploitation of, people who live here and people who have been living here and have been disadvantaged by so much. And, that ties back to what the highways have done, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I feel like this is kind of a good place to kind of bring it back to the Great Migration. That's something we talked about. It's, one of the main reasons that Black and brown people had to move from the South was the lack of, work. They didn't have a lot of, they couldn't make a living down there.
Yeah, sharecropping didn't earn you nothing.
And that all kind of started with the creation of the automated cotton gin, which started in Clarksdale, Mississippi. It started on this Hobson plantation that we actually visited.
Yep.
And like we had mentioned earlier at the beginning of the podcast, we kind of uncovered some stuff, and it doesn't just kind of stink, man. It smells. It reeks to high heaven. There's it's a white-owned business that has they're using slave quarters that are like 150 feet away from the cotton fields that were probably still up about like 100 years ago. The spaces available at the Shack Up Inn are only available on shackupinn.com and are in no way affiliated with Airbnb or its parent companies, nor do we condone the renting of these spaces.
And what did they do with those slave quarters? They made them into Airbnbs.
Refurbished.
Airbnbs,
Completely refurbished.
Yep. Wi-Fi, air conditioning, everything under the sun. They got it in there for you.
You two were down in Clarksdale, right? I was not, but I'm guessing that it was mostly tourists who were staying there, right?
Yes,
well, there was one person we met that I think said, there's some units that you can rent to own, but the majority of them are like hotel space or Airbnb.
And then they got the cotton fields out there for the aesthetic.
The aesthetic. Famous people go there, man. I don't know. It's insane to me. But I think I'm just going to leave it to you guys to watch the footage.
Yep. So
it's right here for you.
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, Keith didn't believe me. I told him about it.
About what? About
these were hotel rentals down
I
stayed in.
Yeah, dude, that's insane.
Isn't it?
This is bizarre as hell. And they got like a little oh, what?
They're profiting from.
Yeah. They're the quarters where people used to stay who worked the fields. And this was a site that was an old cotton gin where they spun the cotton automatically, and put people out of work. This was one of the very first sites that put people out of work in the cotton fields and created the Great Migration. Turn around
so
here.
Crazy.
Yeah, look at this.
All right. So thank you all for watching.
And on the next episode, we are going to be diving deeper into your guys' experience in Clarksdale. I think we've got some interviews, and we're going to be looking at the beginning or one of the roots of transportation in America, the Mississippi River, and how that ties in with slavery and racial segregation and oppression. And so, thank you all very much. You can check us out on ReConnectRondo.com or on social media at ReConnect Rondo.